Did we just witness the end of the Fran McCaffrey era, at least at Carver-Hawkeye Arena? Plus, a great run in the Big Ten tournament comes to a close for the Iowa women. A lot of hoops today. Locked on Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. While you're there, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Just takes a moment and helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nisa Armada. Stay with us for the Armada Team of the Week later in the episode. We are off and running and plenty to get into here today as we open things up. The Iowa women Friday night, their season comes to a close, at least the part of the regular season before the NCAA tournament, with the loss to Ohio State. A tough one. We are going to get into that on Thursday evening. It looks like the end of Iowa at Carver-Hawkeye Arena on the men's side. And on top of it, very well could be the end of Fran McCaffrey, and a lot of odd circumstances on that one. Took my son to the game, so we'll talk about that as well. A lot of basketball talk to get into. Plus, we're going to be joined by Tom Kakert from HawkeyeReport.com, and we'll talk with Tom a little bit about everything happening in the world of Hawkeye athletics. But we open things up today with what we saw on Thursday. It was a loss to Michigan State, another one where Iowa controlled the game during the first half, looked incredibly good. Defensively, we're getting a few stops. Also helped that Michigan State wasn't shooting the ball particularly well, and outside of Jason Richardson, just wasn't there. You know, we talked about this at the top leading into the ball game. How does Iowa compete? How does Iowa hang with one of the top teams in the Big Ten, or the regular season champion, and one of the hottest teams in all of college basketball? Well, I got to start with a little bit of luck, right? You got to have a few things going your way, and that was the case for Iowa. I think a lot of things were going their way, and a lot of things that eventually went well for them on the defensive end. But then the word turned, and something that has happened with this Iowa team really throughout the course of the year is just the second half. You know, they're with the injuries, Cooper Koch being lost for the season, Owen Freeman shutting it down. When you have those kind of guys go down, and just the construction of this team, you're left with what you are. Good enough to compete with good teams for a half, but that's all you're going to get. And we saw it again. Now, there are reasons for that, and there's reasons that it plays out in that fashion. But with this squad, the way that they're built and the way that they're going to be, you can't afford to have poor performances out of your top two scorers. And Josh Dix was okay. We continue to ask for more out of him, be more aggressive, be more assertive, do the things that we know that he can do. But also, Peyton Sandfort. And for this to be his final game in Carver, you know, he finishes with 15 points, but 4-12 from the field, 1 of 5 from the three-point line. And it wasn't just missing shots. There were a couple of different times when Iowa had momentum. Iowa was playing well and just ill-advised, poorly timed shots, and it was frustrating. So, took my son to Carver. He's been to Carver before, but this is the first time he really has gotten into basketball this year. And he's 5.5, not 5.5. He tells me 5.5. And with that, we go over, stop off, get a bite to eat at Wig and Penn, take the walk up the hill then to Carver, and just to see the joy in his eyes, you know, see how excited he was to see the Hawkeyes, to meet Herky, to do all those things, see the guys that he watches on television, to see the big building, the big court in person, all those different things through a kid's eyes. It was great. But also, I remember my first experience at Carver-Hawkeye Arena and going back to what it was, and an environment on Thursday where I was shocked at the number of Michigan State fans that were in attendance. They gobbled up not just seats, but excellent seats, mid-court seats, not the ones behind the bench that Michigan State gets and visiting fans always get. Not just those, sitting in the middle. But when you got a building that's at best 60% capacity, probably less than that. We got tickets for $12, 12 rows up. Good seats. Tell you, I did not sit that close. My first time in Carver-Hawkeye 30-some years ago. But the environment and then the weirdness. So we're going to get to that because there's just so many elements. We know that Carver can still be a special place. I mean, you go to a wrestling meet, you go to a duel, you see obviously what it's like for that. You go to a women's basketball game, the excitement, the buzz, just the elation, and hearing national commentators talk about what a special environment Carver-Hawkeye Arena is. The arena's old. It's over 40 years old. Somebody also over 40 years old. I can understand showing its age. It needs to be renovated. You know, when it was built, it made sense in the era. It doesn't anymore. And no luxury boxes, those kind of things don't make sense. The big bowl. Does Iowa need to have an arena that seats 15,000 people anymore? On a great demand, probably not. That number likely is more in the 10 to 12,000 range. And you look at arenas that have been built, arenas in a similar ilk as an athletic department and population base as Iowa, 15,500 when it was built, doesn't make sense in today's environment. All those things have to be done. However, there were times where it was a dead environment. And the old tired burrito lift and the same things. And here comes the t-shirt cannon and the hot dog gun. Okay. It doesn't even feel like the effort's even there anymore. Maybe they don't want to put in the effort. And maybe this is just a program in the men's basketball team that is just that. But it seemed at all levels, coaching, players, fans, engagement, basketball operations, everything. It was very blah. It was in today's world of athletics, and with so many people having so many different things that they can go to for entertainment, there wasn't a whole lot of extra entertainment value there. And when you have a basketball team that's struggling, when you have a program that's struggling, what can you do? Now, I just thought of an idea. What's being done with this program to get people out? And what can be done? And that's why we look at this thing big picture. We wonder if Fran McCaffrey, based on what he's done as a basketball coach during the 15 years, would he deserve more time? Last year, they were a bubble team, right to the end. And a win against Illinois in the regular season finale probably would have put them in the NCAA tournament. They didn't get it. And then they get beat by Ohio State in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, and it was off to the NIT. But when you go through it and you look at this program as a whole, and what Fran McCaffrey's done, yes, we know Sweet 16's not there as he got to the second weekend. He's the all-time winningest coach. He's done a lot with the program. And based on that alone, coupled with a very good recruiting class coming in, he would probably deserve another season. But that's not the reality that we live in. The reality is that the fan base is done. They have said no more to Fran McCaffrey. Fair, unfair, whatever your determination is, that's the reality. The fan base is not coming. And short of Iowa winning at an incredibly high level next year in the non-conference, you're going to see another Big Ten season that is, at best, half full for games. It's unthinkable at Carver-Hawkeye Arena, but that is our reality. I believe that Beth Getz has to make the choice of firing Fran McCaffrey. And whatever verbiage that they come together, Fran's let it be known. He's getting that full buyout. If I was going to move on, he's not going to just be a nice guy and leave $4.2 million on the table. No. Pay that man his money. Gary Barta, sign the contract. Fran McCaffrey, sign the contract. He's not just going to walk away. If you're ready to move on, and we know the fan base certainly is, then you're going to have to pay. I keep hearing, can Iowa pay? Can they afford it? Yes, they can afford it. Look, there's buyouts at a much higher level at athletic departments that have a lot less money that have been able to make it work. Now, over this last month plus Beth Getz has needed to be in front of the big donors, has needed to go out to the people that can write the kind of checks to make these things happen. That work already needs to be done. I mean, that hay needs to be in the barn. She needs to know, and she needed to know weeks ago if that was a realistic possibility. And she should have that answer. And if it ends Sunday against Nebraska, if they do get a win against the Huskers and it continues to the Big Ten tournament, and then whenever their season comes to a close, it needs to be swift, it needs to be decisive, and it needs to happen quickly. That's what Iowa has to do. We haven't gone through a lot of major coaching changes. For me, I've seen 2 coaches in football. 2. Basketball, quite a few more. Lute, Raveling, Dr. Tom, Wonder Boy Steve Alford, the disaster that was Todd Licklider, and now Fran McCaffrey. And they've gone a very, very different ways throughout the course of the basketball program. This needs to be done right. There's going to be other major jobs that are out there. There are going to be candidates that make a lot of sense. There are candidates that are simple, and there's ones that are a little bit more difficult. But make it quick. Make it happen. And if you're ready to move on, you have to go do it. We're going to talk some more basketball coming up. Tom Kakert's going to join us, plus a deeper look at the women. Nice win against Michigan State on Thursday night for them. And then last night, it comes to a close against the Buckeyes, and a lot of what-ifs in that game against Ohio State as Iowa falls in the quarterfinals of the Big Ten. However, this Iowa team put themselves in really, really good shape going forward for them to make a run in the NCAA tournament, and why I believe this team could get back once again to the Sweet 16. We'll talk about that as we continue. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is super easy to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Tom Kakert in here. He joins the program. Tom, Trent, and Ken, thank you for coming on. Tom, I want to start. It was uncomfortable to read, and it's stuck with me ever since you tweeted on the Sanford death threats thread on your message board. The fact that that a player's parents got a call in the middle of the night, claiming that their son had been killed. What kind of sick son of a unit? I mean, that just makes my blood boil, Tom. I don't need to know who it was. I'm not asking that.
I would never do that. I'm not going to say who it was, but there was another parent who got a call that their son was in jail from a drunk driving. Kid doesn't even drink, and they got that call in the middle of the night. And then another one. Your son's dead. You know, who does that at 2:30 in the morning?
Really? And who answers the phone at 2:30 in the morning thinking, oh, this is good news?
Yeah.
No one.
It's usually never good news if it's 2:30 in the morning. Yeah. So it just tells you there's some sick and twisted people out there in this world. So
yeah, I wonder if it's happening more than we even know about, across the gambling landscape. Because I have to assume that's what it is. I want to be wrong on that. That somebody's parlay didn't hit because they had over 8.5 and that player only got 8 or whatever. Yeah. I don't know what is behind it, but anyways. So the game last night was really a tale of two different games, right? The first 20 minutes and the second 20 minutes. Is this all about adjustments from Izzo, who's, historically, and especially on this run that they are on? FS1 put up a graphic, just how much better they are in the second half of these games. Yeah. Is it all about adjustments?
Yeah. Well, it's just they seem to have something in the second half, and Iowa seems to have something in the second half that's not so good because they faded in the second half of a lot of games, and I think that's just due to guys getting tired, guys getting worn out, guys playing a lot of minutes, and there's times where Fran's, I think, kind of rode the same lineup that's been effective for a little bit, and he just kind of rides them a little longer than maybe he should, but he doesn't have a lot of options. So he's got to play who he's got. And, those teams they're just playing well. And the weird thing is, I don't know that they've got, other than Richardson, do they have a pro on that team? I don't know.
Yeah, good question.
But they're really just, the thing that jumped out at me when I was writing my game preview and looking at their stats more in depth was they had two guys with over 100 assists this year, and that just jumps out at me. That's a team that's unselfish and sharing the basketball.
That is an eye-opening one. This is a deep Michigan State team. I don't know if they're good enough to make a deep run in the tournament. I don't know if anybody is in the Big Ten. I think
they
that's
don't
where
shoot well enough.
Yeah.
They don't shoot well enough.
And you saw that in the first half. Yeah. Iowa played okay defensively, but they also missed some open shots. And outside of Richardson, you just can't do that. So I was in the building. I was sending you pictures of you and Bowenkamp, you know.
In Bowenkamp.
Yeah, being goobers over there. The environment, though, for a senior day, I shouldn't have been shocked. I've only been there a couple of times this year, but I was. How many Michigan State fans were in the building? I thought that was eye-opening too. But, Tom, there can't be a path to bring Fran McCaffrey back. Financially, yes, buyouts cost money. Yes, bringing a new coach costs money. But you can't let the men's basketball program basically die, because bringing Fran McCaffrey back, isn't that what you'd be doing?
Yeah. In essence, unless they start winning and they get interest back. But all things being equal, I really do believe that if the fans were still showing up, and they had this year, I think he'd probably be given some grace.
I agree.
Get an extra year. But I think it's a butts and seats thing that you just can't ignore at this point. And I'm curious, Trent, what was your view of the wife of the head coach heading down to the sidelines to offer counsel when it was 58-50, and then Michigan State went on a 24-4 run or something?
So I saw Mark, because she was really close in front of us. We had pretty decent seats there, basically right across from you, Tom. And I saw her. So I just thought, when I saw her pacing quickly, we'll just put it that way, I thought she was going back to that tunnel, because don't they have something back there in that tunnel where, you can grab food if you're a donor, things like that? That's what I anticipated it was. And until I saw the pictures online, I didn't realize that, no, she wasn't going to grab some popcorn. She had other ideas.
Yeah, she went over and I think she was telling Fran to yell at the refs, or yelling at the refs herself behind the bench during the timeout. Hadn't seen that one before, and it was odd, and I'm not sure how Fran felt about it, but I wasn't about to touch that rail last night in the post game. Especially with Margaret sitting there in the post game, as she usually is.
Oh, she is. Okay.
That was a question we had. We didn't know.
She is usually at the post game, but this time she usually stands at the back of the room. This time she sat in one of the two rows of seats and was with us. I thought maybe she would ask a question.
Didn't get that.
Didn't get that question, but it was odd, and I was told. Maybe she may have
flipped off officials.
May have had at halftime when they were coming down the tunnel. They've had some words with them. So I did not see that, but I was told by somebody that I trust that may have happened. Now I was told by an Iowa official that when she went behind the bench, she was simply pointing to remind Fran to stay in the coaching box. Oh. If you believe that, I got some land I'd like to sell you to.
Yeah. Sit up straight when you're on the bench. Please. Yeah, that's not what's going on. Well, the game itself, there were a couple of moments, right? Obviously, a couple of highlights for guys who were playing on the floor for the final time. You know what? Senior might have had the best night, Bronze, right? Because it was unexpected. Those two dunks, the enthusiasm that he shows once he makes a play. I love that about him. Peyton Sanford struggled to shoot the ball as he has at times. Thelwell really never got it going. But I thought Bronze might have been the senior that had the best senior night. How about that one?
Yeah, I think you might be right. And boy, he's fun to watch play, and he just goes up and he'll dunk stuff, and he just plays physical, plays tough, plays hard, high effort guy. Unfortunately, I think Thelwell rolled his ankle again, and I'm wondering if he's probably not going to be available on Sunday when they go to Nebraska for a must-win game. If you're going to make the Big Ten tournament, it's a win and you're in for both teams. So, they've got to They got to win that one. Otherwise, season over.
Jeez.
Do you see enough left in the tank that give them a fighter's chance over there for 40 minutes, not for 20, for 40 minutes against the Huskers on the road?
Well, the fact that the Huskers have dropped 4 straight gives you a little bit of hope, I guess. But you follow Iowa basketball, you know that wins at Pinnacle Bank, very few and far between.
Yep.
So they just don't win over there. And it's going to be awfully hard because, you know, Nebraska's going to be fired up to play. And without Thelwell, I mean, now you're just down another guard. It's going to be difficult for them to, they're going to have Josh Dix and Peyton Sanford and Price are going to have 20 each probably just to give Iowa a chance.
I know Bart is gone, but I believe the way he handled the Licklider dismissal, I don't think that he even let him get back to Iowa City before he knew, right? Didn't he get told?
No, it was they finished up the season and then it was a Monday morning.
Okay.
When he went in to meet with Todd and yeah, next time you have Doctorman on,
that'll be Monday. Yeah,
next week. Yeah, have Doc relive that story
because
he was there.
That's what you said. He camped out there. Do you anticipate if there is some news regarding the coaching position that we get it relatively quickly after this, assuming they get beat by Nebraska?
Yeah, I would think it'd probably come Monday, Tuesday. You got to say something if you're going to keep them. You got to say, hey, we're going to
running it back again.
Running it back, and he's going to make a couple changes, or you just say, "Hey, we're moving on." And Fran made it clear he's not looking to retire, so that is off the table at this point. So I know he wants to continue to coach, be it at Iowa or elsewhere. He wants to continue to coach.
There's some jobs open in Philly.
I know LaSalle's open.
LaSalle's open.
Yeah. Go there.
It's like an Alford
go back
parachute,
again.
right?
Yeah.
Go back home, finish things up, bring Jack with you, and Jack in the A10, he'd be pretty good at LaSalle.
He would be a very effective player there.
Yes,
he might get a fight from his son Connor to get Jack.
That's
so.
right. Yeah, that wouldn't go over. That be make for some interesting tableside manner, right? When the family gets
who's
together.
a better recruiter, Connor or Dad? That would be a tough one. And that's Tom Kakert from HawkeyeReport.com. We continue here, Locked On Hawkeyes, and we finish things up with the end of the Big Ten tournament run from the Iowa women. It was a deep one. It was a fun one. 2 wins and nearly a third. Instead, Iowa sees their Big Ten tournament run come to a close. We talk about that and what is next for this Iowa women's basketball team on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. We're all about the stats because numbers don't lie. And when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can quite literally carry the whole team. Plus the gear, wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada Pro 4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Trent Condon back with you one final time on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. A lot of men's basketball talk. Let's get into the ladies. Starting on Thursday night, the win against Michigan State, a Michigan State team that got them earlier this season. The revenge angle was definitely there, and Iowa jumped out to the early lead. So, as I mentioned, I was at Carver-Hawkeye Arena, was able just to listen to the second half on the way home. But going back and watching, on fast forward a little bit and kind of cruising through the first half of the game that I missed, I will tell you, it felt like by the time they got to halftime, it felt like Iowa should have had a bigger lead. And then the third quarter starts, and it's not going very well. But Jan Jensen picks up her first career technical foul. and it ignited the team. Hearing the post game and a couple of the players, I know Taylor McCabe mentioned it, that it was something that kind of got them going, got them pushed forward, right? And got a nice win against Michigan State. And I believe that win against the Spartans is going to be enough for Iowa to get into the top 24 teams in the bracketology. And with it, going to get them the ability to get a top 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. So then we go to what proves to be the finale last night against Ohio State. And one that obviously Iowa was right there. You hold this Ohio State team to 60, you think you're going to be in good shape. And, a couple of great stretches of the game. Hannah Stuelke was a monster inside. She had a double-double at a night where offensively it wasn't there. And you have to credit also Ohio State. This Buckeye team, they are physical, they are tough, and it's a tough matchup for Iowa. Cody McMahon, she talks a lot. If you're not a Buckeye fan, she's going to annoy you. Hawkeye fans, yes, we're annoyed by her, right? And got a call late. She puts her head down. She's an effective ball player, though. She's a talented player. And stands up and gets a free throw that proves to be the difference in this one. There wasn't a whole lot else there. And the reason that I'm hopeful, final play, 0.7 on the clock, get it into Stuelke. She's got the baseline jumper, misses. Okay. Now, I know there's people saying, well, why is Lucy Olsen inbounding there? Don't you want to have Lucy Olsen to have that one? And I kind of agree with that part. I think you want to have her as a weapon. Hannah Stuelke was not the first option, though, in that inbound play. And that's going to happen. Remember, the other team, they get scholarships too. They're trying as well. And a lot of times, your first and even second options are covered up. I wouldn't have had Olsen inbound, but we're picking nits. Gia Jensen's done a great job with this squad. She knows this team better than we do. And there's so many great stories. And, Fulter with those back-to-back threes, those were absolutely huge in the game. She's just playing so well. And coming off that knee injury, the slow start to the season, she's rounding into form. Lucy Olsen, through the back half of the season, she is, I think, stopped worrying about everybody else and just gone out there and played her game. She's playing at a high level. What you've been able to get these last 2 games from Ava Hayden. I mean, how about that? Hayden has just been tremendous of what she's been able to do. A Guyton coming in and being able to slow down that pressure defense at times a little bit. Just on and on and on. We've talked about Kyler Feuerbach and what she does on ball in the defend, and she had an open 3. McCabe didn't have it last night. And Taylor McCabe's not going to have many nights like that when the 3-point shot and good 3-point looks are just not falling. Iowa didn't play great last night, and they're a bucket away from beating a top 10 Ohio State team. I think that shows you how well this Iowa team is playing, how good they're playing. And in the grand scheme of things, yeah, it would have been great to get another shot against UCLA and see if he could take down the behemoth after beating USC earlier this season. It would have been fun, no doubt. But this loss here, this is what Iowa's resume is going to look like now going into the NCAA tournament. When the committee gets together, this is what they're going to see. Iowa sitting at 22-10 overall, 6-2 in neutral court games, 6 road victories this season. A net ranking that currently sits at 24. Don't anticipate there's going to be a whole lot of movement there. They went out, they challenged themselves in the non-conference. Their non-conference strength of schedule, 30th in the country out of 360-some teams. Strength of schedule overall, 9th in the country. That says a lot. 6 quad 1 victories, 6-7 against quad 1. That resume is as good as anybody you're going to find on those fringes. 5, 6, 7 seed. I was going to be in really good conversation with them. You combine quadrants 1 and 2 together, they are 9-10. These are really, really good marks. Obviously, the huge quality win against USC, I think that's going to go a long way. I believe that I was going to earn a number 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. And with that, the path to getting to the Sweet 16 is right there. Yes, you're going to have to go on the road. That round of 32 game on the road, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be against a good team, but it's not going to be against one of the elite teams, one of the who's who of women's college basketball. It will be attainable. Iowa's probably going to be a 4.5, 5.5 point underdog, something like that when you open up your FanDuel app. However, think back the last couple of years. What has been some of Iowa's most difficult games in the NCAA tournament while hosting all 3 years? It's that matchup in the round of 32. The struggles that they had losing to Creighton 3 years ago against West Virginia. There's been some tough matchups. The Georgia game 2 years ago in that round of 32. Now Iowa, they're going to be the team with the shoe on the other foot. And whoever that number 3 seed is, a TCU, a West Virginia, whoever it proves to be, do you think those teams want to see the Iowa Hawkeyes and this battle-tested championship-level roster that has played in big games, been in big moments, done it in tough environments? You think that that's what they want to see in the second round? I don't think so. This Iowa team's in really good shape, and I think there can be a run in them. Plus, you never know come the NCAA tournament. Crazy things can happen. Yes, there are not nearly as many upsets as there are in men's basketball, but there is a chance. We will keep an eye on that one. Still another week to go for the women's bracket as well before we will get that one. Big Ten tournament goes early, as the SEC tournament and many others do. Time for a little rest and get ready for the NCAA tournament and hopefully another deep run for this women's basketball team. We will be back with you on Sunday after Iowa's matchup against Nebraska. We will talk about that as the Iowa Hawkeye season very well could come to a close. It is a win and in scenario. The Hawkeyes have to beat Nebraska to qualify for the Big Ten tournament. Will they get it done? We'll talk about that and break things down after it goes final against the Huskers. And then the big question, what is next for Fran McCaffrey? That's coming your way on Sunday. Thanks for being with us, your team every day. That's what we do here on the Locked On Hawkeyes Network. On the Locked On Network, we got the Hawkeye side covered for you here each and every day. Hit subscribe if you're still with us on YouTube. 5-star reviews if you're on the podcast side. Greatly appreciate it. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, go Hawks.